The true reason why the U.S. China war is inevitable. Americans like to think that they are the strongest nation on earth. After all, no other country can match their military spending, which currently sits at $773 billion, which is more than the next 10 nations combined. Their advanced weapon systems, such as the F-35 and F-22 fighter jets, their aircraft carriers, and their nuclear arsenal makes them extremely powerful. But what happens when the American military-industrial complex gets challenged by China? Can America win a war against China? Should America even consider going to war with China? And what is the one true reason why the U.S. China war is inevitable? Stay tuned to find out. In this video, we will analyze 3 different aspects of the U.S. military that will show how America could lose against China. We will then reveal the single most important aspect that could lead to an inevitable war between these two superpowers. It's me! Welcome to my channel, where we try to answer the great geographic what-if questions of the world. Let's start by looking at the basics. How do the U.S. and China compare in terms of military personnel numbers? The United States has roughly 1.5 million active personnel, while China has around 900,000. So China has fewer soldiers than the United States. However, the Chinese have been growing their People's Liberation Army for years and have actually increased their military spending by over 5% each year for almost a decade. Currently, China's military budget sits at $290 billion, which is about 1/3 of what the United States spends on its military. While the Chinese army may be smaller than the American army, it is catching up fast and soon could surpass the United States in terms of the number of active military personnel. So what about weapons? Which country has more and which country has better weapons? Here we see the United States still pull ahead of China. They have more tanks, more fighter jets, more naval ships, and more nuclear weapons. So, in terms of military hardware, China still has a ways to go before they can catch up with the United States. But there is another aspect of the military that may surprise you. What about the amount of land each country controls? In this category, China easily surpasses the United States. China controls over 9.5 million square kilometers of land, while the United States only controls 9.8 million square kilometers of land. That means that China technically has less land than the United States. But it also means that they have a much larger population that they must defend. For example, India shares a border with China, while Russia only shares a small maritime border with the United States. This would mean that the Chinese have far more land borders than the Americans. What about the air? Both countries have developed sophisticated missile technologies. But there is one key difference between the two countries. China has developed hypersonic missiles. These missiles fly at speeds over Mach 5, meaning that they travel over 3,800 miles per hour. To put that into perspective, the fastest production fighter jet in the world, the American F-22 Raptor, flies at just over Mach 2. The reason why this is significant is because current American missile defense systems cannot keep up with a Mach 5 missile. This means that the Chinese could potentially bomb targets in the United States while avoiding any sort of missile defense. In fact, China has tested hypersonic missiles that can travel nearly to 1,500 miles. This means that most of the United States is well within striking distance of these hypersonic weapons. To make matters worse, China has also been testing hypersonic aircraft that fly at similar speeds. This means that not only does China have the ability to bomb targets in the United States, but they could potentially do so with manned aircraft. It should be noted that the United States has also been developing hypersonic missiles. However, their development has been plagued with delays and cost overruns. So, for now, it appears that China has the edge in terms of speed. And then there's the sea. In terms of sea power, the United States is unmatched. They have 11 active aircraft carriers, which is more than every other country in the world combined. Aircraft carriers allow the United States to project military force almost anywhere in the world within a few days. The U.S. Navy is also the largest navy in the world with 295 ships. Compare this to China's 350 ships, and you can see that China is quickly catching up. In fact, China has been building new ships at a rate of 10 per year. On top of this, China has developed what some experts call the People's Carrier, which is designed to carry fighter jets, helicopters, and drones. China's carrier is not as large as the American carriers, but it does pose a potential threat to American shipping lanes. As the Chinese carrier becomes more prevalent, it will become more difficult for the United States to dominate the seas. This brings us to the question, can America win a war against China? And the answer is probably not. If we take all of these factors into account, we can see that China is becoming a formidable opponent to the United States. With China's growing military budget, increasing number of military personnel, hypersonic weapons, and growing navy, it is unlikely that the United States could win a war against China. And this is the true reason why the U.S.-China war is inevitable. The U.S. has long prided itself on being the global hegemon. Since World War II, the United States has spent trillions of dollars maintaining a strong military presence around the world. They've built a vast network of military bases in almost every country on Earth. This network of bases allows the United States to project military force almost anywhere in the world within a matter of days. But China wants to change that. The Chinese government sees the United States' military presence in Asia as a threat to its national security. In particular, the Chinese are concerned about the U.S. military bases in Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, and Australia. These bases allow the United States to easily monitor and potentially attack Chinese military installations. This is seen as a major irritant by the Chinese government, who view it as a violation of their sovereignty. Tensions have been high between the two countries as China has been pressuring the United States to close its military bases in Asia. The U.S. has refused to do so, which has only served to further antagonize the Chinese. This has led many experts to believe that a conflict between the two countries is inevitable. While both countries are trying to avoid a direct military conflict, there are a number of potential flashpoints that could lead to war. One of the most dangerous flashpoints is Taiwan. The United States officially recognizes the People's Republic of China as the sole legal government of China, but it also maintains unofficial relations with Taiwan. China views Taiwan as a breakaway province that will eventually be brought back under mainland control. The United States, on the other hand, sees Taiwan as a key ally in the region and a bulwark against Chinese aggression. China has threatened to use force to bring Taiwan back under its control, which has raised fears that a conflict between the two countries could erupt over the island. Another potential flashpoint is the South China Sea. China claims sovereignty over much of the South China Sea, an area that is rich in natural resources and strategic value. The United States and other countries in the region have challenged China's claims, which has led to increased tensions. There have been a number of close calls between Chinese and American warships in the region, raising fears that a miscalculation could lead to conflict. Even though the U.S. and China are economic partners, the reality is that they are also strategic rivals. China's rise as a global power has challenged the United States' position in the world, and this has led to a growing rivalry between the two countries. The competition between the two countries is playing out in a number of areas, including trade, investment, technology, and military. The U.S. has imposed sanctions on China in an effort to contain its rise, while China has retaliated with its own sanctions. The tit-for-tat has escalated tensions between the two countries and raised fears that the rivalry could spiral out of control. The U.S. and China are also on opposing sides of a number of regional conflicts. China's support for North Korea and Iran has been a source of tension with the United States. The two countries also have opposing views on a number of other regional conflicts, including in Syria, Yemen, and Libya. The lack of trust between the two countries has raised fears that they could end up on opposing sides of a future conflict. Many experts believe that the rivalry between the U.S. and China is the most significant geopolitical development of our time. The two countries are on a collision course, and it is only a matter of time before things get physical. It is clear that the rivalry between the two countries is growing, and it is likely to continue to escalate in the years to come. This means that the risk of conflict between the two countries is also growing. The United States and China have a long history of rivalry that dates back to the Cold War era. The two countries have never been truly close allies and have often found themselves on opposing sides of various conflicts and issues. The rivalry between the two countries has intensified in recent years as China has emerged as a major global power. This has created a situation where the two countries are increasingly seeing each other as strategic rivals rather than partners. As China has risen as an economic power, it has also become more assertive on the global stage. This has led to a number of territorial disputes in the region, such as in the South China Sea. The U.S. and China have also clashed over a number of important issues such as human rights, democracy, and trade. The U.S. has criticized China's human rights record and its policies towards Taiwan and Tibet, while China has criticized the U.S. for its support of these issues. Trade has also been a contentious issue between the two countries as they have imposed tariffs and other restrictions on each other's goods and services. As the rivalry between the two countries has grown, so has the potential for conflict. The U.S. and China have a number of overlapping interests in the region, such as in the South China Sea and Taiwan. Any disagreement or miscalculation could potentially lead to a conflict between the two countries. Additionally, the two countries have very different political systems and ideologies, which could lead to a clash between them. The U.S. is a democracy while China is a communist dictatorship. These two systems are fundamentally opposed to each other and could lead to a conflict between the two countries. Perhaps the most significant factor contributing to the possibility of war between the U.S. and China is the military buildup by both countries. Both countries have been investing heavily in their militaries and modernizing their weapon systems. This has created an arms race between the two countries and has raised the stakes for any potential conflict, as the military capabilities of both countries have increased. So has the potential for damage in a conflict between them. In conclusion, the true reason why the U.S. China war is inevitable is due to their escalating rivalry. Their conflicting interests, political differences, military buildup, and potential flashpoints all contribute to the likelihood of a future war between these two countries. It is a tragic reality that both countries seem destined to be on a collision course. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and I will see you next time.